guys want to get some coffee or something?
Can I get a cup of coffee? Black? Can't you see we talking? White?
Even little kids in Mexico drink coffee.
Well, I'm not a little kid in Mexico, okay?
That is the best coffee I've ever tasted.
A damn fine cup of coffee.
You want a cup of coffee?
No coffee.
Coffee drinker, huh?
Maybe we can grab some coffee?
Coffee! Coffee, 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 coffee!
God damn, Jimmy. This is some serious gourmet shit. Me and Vincent would have been satisfied with some freeze-dried Taster's Choice, right? And he springs this serious gourmet shit on us.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good golly, Miss Molly. Welcome to the inaugural, which is code for first, morning coffee with Brian. It does say morning coffee with Gary at the top corner, so he gets the blame if anything goes wrong. So I like that strategy, but I do have an admission to make, terrible admission to make. This is tea, not coffee. So this is tea. I'm breaking all the rules already. You see, this is going to be a risk-taking show, breaking the rules. This is tea, the elixir that whatever that is, I don't know.
That's water.
That's water. I've got water over there too. But this tea, the psychedelic elixir that inspired the Ruttles to some of their best songs ever. So they were tapping the table whilst drinking tea and making great records. So cheers. So, good morning, John. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm enjoying sitting here for a couple of hours instead of going out and shoveling a whole load of snow because we're currently in a big snowfall in Alberta here. So this is nice. If we could make the show last longer than 2 hours, that would have been good. And Martin, my friend, how are you doing?
I'm doing. Barely, but doing.
You're doing, yes. As we were saying, it's nice to have, now it'd be nice for you to be joined by another person on the show that isn't a native English speaker, being Scottish.
Oh, poor John and poor audience.
Yes, poor audience. There's this, and I'm probably, this is me sounding my most English. Hello.
Eventually, they're going to start to ask for subtitles.
Hell, I could use those myself. Use them in the form of a teleprompter. That would be handy. But yeah, thanks to everybody for joining us here on YouTube and on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. Hello to everybody out there. I can see a bunch of people in the chat already, and it's lovely to see you here on this morning, this great morning. You've got Penny. We got D-Bud Martin. We have Anima here. Thank you for being here, Anima, to support me. I appreciate that very much. We have our great friend, Christian Delorme. We have Dragon Bricks. Nice screenshot. I can't remember the title of that movie, but it's pretty good. That is a screenshot, if I recall, from the Roundup, which we're definitely going to be talking about that movie and the one before it, The Outlaws, with Don Lee. Certainly two of my favorites. We're going to talk about some stuff like that, and we're going to talk about some even more kind of, the thing about Korean stuff is there's a lot of different aspects to it, so we're going to get into all those. Monkey Jeebus, good to see you, Monkey Jeebus. D-Bud again. We've got Dragon Ruse, Real Wade Nation Gaming Clips, Dragon Bricks. Yes, my first name indeed is Brian. That is Brian. I'm Brian, and so is my wife. We've got a few other people in there, I'm sure. Penny, Master. So good morning to everybody there. The Dork Knight is here. Thank you all for turning out for this inaugural show. No, it's going to be fun. It's going to be relaxed. We're going to talk about the ethos of the show, like it is for all the other morning coffees, as we talk about the stuff we love and the stuff we like not so much complaining about the things we don't. So we're here to talk. Does Leggy Mountbatten know about the Ruttles doing this? I don't think he does. He may well claim me talking about the Ruttles, copyright claim it all the way from New Zealand, where he's in a teaching position now, I believe. So we'll definitely be doing a show on the Ruttles at some point then. The Prefab Four, as they call themselves. But today, I felt for the inaugural show, but it'd be nice to talk about something that I'm really into right now and like current day and watching a lot of right now. It's over the last few years, for me, there's been a dearth of good content. That's just for me, coming out of the Anglosphere. So America, Britain, whatever, all the English-speaking nations. We've seen the kind of decline and fall of Western civilization in the entertainment world quite steeply in the last 5 or 6 years for various reasons, and I don't particularly want to dwell on that per se. But the good thing about that for me, and the good thing about the pandemic as well, when I unfortunately lost my job and had a lot of time in my hands, which is why I got into YouTube, was the ability to watch a lot of stuff that I hadn't previously felt I had time to watch or didn't even really know about. And you're looking around for content. I mean, my God, I watched all these movies. What am I going to watch now? And whilst I'd always had a track record of watching a lot of European movies, and I'd watched some Hong Kong stuff, some Japanese stuff, I hadn't really explored the market for TV and movies in countries like India and further Japan stuff, and then Korea. I hadn't even considered Korea much for content other than watching one or two well-known movies that everybody had seen. So it was a great experience to get into that and to learn more about that cinema. And I found my wife, I really enjoyed the stuff that's coming out of South Korea. Yeah, Gary is indeed much sexier. I've had the makeover. The back door is closed. Finally, the portals have slammed shut in the back door. Thank you for those kind words. Hail, Sean. So so recent times watching a lot of that Korean stuff, which is it's gone global. A lot of it recently, mainly due to streaming, and that's an interesting point. And John and I were certainly talking about this before, that we condemn Netflix and other streaming platforms quite a lot for some of the stuff they put out, but they've really been very responsible for taking some of that Asian and Indian content and pushing it out to the globe. And I think they deserve a lot of kudos for that. So there's been some fantastic TV and movies that you can go watch on Netflix or Hulu right now, or Amazon Prime, stuff that's would otherwise never have been seen, or would have been extremely difficult to get. You would have had to get it through other channels, some of which you still do, of course. And not that I would be saying to get them anywhere illegal, but there are other ways of getting stuff through Asian streaming services and whatever. Hell, you can just buy them if they're available. So I think streaming services deserve a lot of credit for that. I mean, I don't know how you two guys feel. I mean, do you watch a lot of that kind of content on those services?
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite things to watch on stuff like Netflix, is to find stuff I've never heard of before from other countries that fall into the genres I like.
Yeah, I found it extremely useful for that. And I think the more that you look for, the more they suggest to you as well, which is good. And I've heard people say, well, that's a Netflix Korean show, it's not really Korean. Well, I don't agree with that at all. It may be more mainstream and acceptable in some ways, because Korean cinema has got a wide range of content like everybody else in Korean TV. But I don't think we should dismiss something just because it is on Netflix and it is popular. Like Squid Game would be the example. There's a reason it's popular, and it's because it's good. Yeah. So we shouldn't be dismissing that out of hand in favor of some obscure thing that nobody's ever heard of, that only 3 people watched and wasn't that great. I mean, there's good and bad in everything, as somebody once sang. I think it was Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder. So for me, that was a big learning curve to really get into that stuff. And it led me to on a personal level to explore more of Korean. And by Korean, I mean South Korean. I don't think I've seen any specifically North Korean content. It does exist. Well, that's why you're going to talk about that, because I know it exists. But the South Korean content, and funnily enough, it's opened other doors because it's allowed me to get into Korean history and study Korean history, which I wasn't aware of. And now I have a desire to go there and see the place. Because before I was very into Japan and Japanese stuff. And Korea was just like, well, it's a country over the water from Japan. now I get it, completely different culture, completely different people, and different sensibilities, and in fact a very complex relationship with Japan and China. So and I'm a bit of a mainstream guy, so I've seen some of the cult and genre Korean movies that are out there, horror or sci-fi stuff. I know that, John, you've got some kaiju stuff that you want to talk about, which is not something I'm so familiar with. I didn't even know there were Korean kaiju movies.
Yep.
So a lot of what I want to talk about today is what you would call almost mainstream Korean TV shows and movies, and some of my favorite examples. And if you like them, you like them. If you don't, you don't. But I think some of them are well worth at least a look. So how does that sound, everybody?
Sounds fair.
Is that a
Sounds
thrilling plan for the inaugural show? I know we've not been yanked from the air yet, so we're doing okay. So I must remember, as Martin, this is lovely for me because normally I'm a one-man band on my own channel. I have Martin and John to help me here, and Martin is calling out various people in the chat for me. To mention that Six is here. Good to see you, Six. Sean, Dragon Ruse. He's got the names in there, so I'll keep checking that so I don't miss anybody. And we'll be highlighting comments, getting your ideas for what you like and don't like, because I make lists. John mentioned a movie to me last night. I wrote it down. I got the trailer. I'm going to go look for the movie. This is how a lot of stuff I find out about gets promulgated. So. Yeah, so just in terms of the general background of Korea and Korean movies, an interesting thing for me looking into the history of Korea was it was a little bit of a late starter when it came to really mass producing movies, given its history. So dominated by Japan from the late 1800s onwards, basically colonized by Japan. Wasn't a great amount of, there was films being made, but there wasn't a great movie industry. Then the whole Korean War, the liberation from Japan, the Korean War. So it wasn't really until the 1960s that Korea, which had been pretty poor up till then, started to get enough standard of living to really support a film industry. And a lot of 1960s movies came to the fore. And then government control over them and suppression and censorship over the years was also a problem. But in the 1990s, that was lifted. I think that's when you see the real explosion of stuff, late 1990s.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of movies from that era that I do like, that I'm interesting in. So you got a lot of younger creators coming in then, and instead of maybe small, locally focused films, you got a lot of blockbusters and genre movies, action, science fiction, historical epics. So that the industry really grew there, up to the point where now there's a lot of international attention and stars. So one of the things I wanted to do today was, I'll show you my process, boring as it is. I sit and write notes like this, and it's like a map, and it's got actors and things they're in, and then an arrow pointing to who else was in it, and then an arrow pointing to the director and what else he did. And so it'll kind of flow like that, if that's okay for everybody. I can't do it any other way because I can't remember it all in here. This is the attic. There's only so much room in the attic. You put something in, something has to come out. Cheers. So I want to kick off with a guy that we and a lot of the stuff, funnily enough, I've watched with my good lady wife. I know she tends to watch some of the more romantic dramas that are on. I've watched some of them. I tend to go more for the action and serious dramas, as it were, and the genre stuff. This guy's really popular, and he's internationally popular as well. Lee Byung-hun. Definitely one of my favorite actors, probably the most well-known Korean actor internationally, possibly. Big star, made his start in a film called Joint Security Area in the year 2000, along with Song Kang-ho, who's also a big star, and they've appeared in a number of films together. The middle picture there particularly I like because that was from a film called The Good, the Bad, and the Weird, which, if you've never seen, is a bit of a Tarantino-esque Korean Western set in Manchuria in the 1930s. And it also features Don Lee, who we're going to talk about later as well. It's a bit of a weird movie. If Tarantino made movies in Manchuria, then he'd be making that. He would have made this movie. He's also gone in to be in, and I'll be showing images of these films as we go as well. Terminator Genesis, the G.I. Joe movies, Red 2, Magnificent 7. So he's made a breakthrough into Western films. For some reason, my wife likes watching his movies, and I have no idea why. I just don't get it. But, you know, she would even watch G.I. Joe just to see this. Was it Shadow Master or something? And then
Storm Shadow.
Storm Shadow, that's it. I can never remember. See, again, there's no room in here. I can't remember things like that. Storm Shadow, and this was his appearance in Squid Game, which I didn't realize at the time was actually quite a big deal because he was a big star, but he didn't appear in it till like halfway through. So the reveal was lost on me because I hadn't watched some of these other things before. And of course, he's in Squid Game with guys like Park Hae-soo and Gong Yoo, who are also major players in Korean entertainment. So the whole thing was kind of packed with these star appearances, you know. Great actor, can do action, can do comedy, can do romance, does a lot of romantic stuff. So he was in a movie, if you'll forgive me, this is the first one I'd like to talk about for him, Joint Security Area, which was, here he is with Song Kang-ho, who went on to be in The Host, Snowpiercer, Parasite, Emergency Declaration, all other great movies. And this movie is probably, at the time, I think it was year 2000, was the biggest grossing Korean movie in history, in Korea, maybe even worldwide. And it features one of the things that they like to, it's not a trope, but one of the hot topics in Korean movies is always their relationship with the North. So this particular movie was set in right on the DMZ with the North. And it's literally, if you've never seen it, it's 2 guard posts either side of the bridge. And they're sitting there, there's 2 young guys in each guard post, and they're there every night, and they're bored shitless. And so they actually start communicating with each other. And they become friends. Like one guy, so Song Park Hae-soo is on the left there. This was also one of his earliest movies. He actually he saves Lee Byung-hun's character's life from a mine. They're out wandering about in the trees. Saves him from getting blown up by a mine and become really good friends. And then they invite their other 2 people to take part. Now, they're young Korean guys. They're bored shitless. They're all Koreans, and they don't see why they shouldn't just hang out and have fun and smoke and drink and play games. And they're supposed to be guarding the border like they did. But of course, this is a complete no-no. So naturally, things go badly wrong. And really, the film starts as a investigation of a shooting. People get shot and people die. I don't want to give too much away because it's well worth watching, but it's a really good drama, and it shows that recurring topic for me of, what separates us from the North? What if we could just go over there and they could just come over here? And a lot of current Korean content, like Money Heist Korea, is all about imaginary scenarios where the North and the South start working together on something and placing it in that world. So it's understandable. I mean, they had a huge war, the country was split in two, and families were split up and whatever. Twist in this is the investigator is Swiss, but she's got a Korean father who was a general in North Korea but escaped. So, but these guys, because of the incident that happened, they all basically lie about what happened, and she has to uncover what really went on. It's tragic, actually. It's not a happy ending. It's giving it away. It's not happy, but it's interesting. You see them all. They were all four of them right on the line of the border where the huts are that they meet, and I'm assuming they may even have filmed it there. I don't know. Certainly, they replicated it, and all four are in the picture, but they can't talk to each other when they're on duty at that point. But they're all kind of winking at each other and whatever. It's cute, but it's sad too. So that was a major movie that these two guys who've gone on to be big stars were in, a very early one. Definitely one of my favorites, I have to say. So Joint Security Area, if you get a copy of that, I think I watched it on Tubi TV, which has got a lot of stuff. So there's others. So apart from Netflix and Hulu and Amazon, you can get a lot of this material on Viki, Rakuten Viki, which has got a lot of Asian content, and Tubi TV, which has also got a lot of these movies and TV shows. So there are ways to get it other than having to get a VPN and figure out how to get Disney Plus in Korea. And there are other ways to get it. Not that I would recommend those. But
No, we don't discuss those methods.
no, I don't. I would never condone such things. Yeah, so looking back for me, it was a thrill to find stuff like this. This is a really great drama. Quite sad though, and because of the subject matter, these people have been split for decades, and the people are the people, and they want to meet. It's the leaders that wouldn't allow it. So that's a trope of Korean. Not so much a trope, but a recurring feature. A lot of movies and shows will at least allude to that or are actually set in that world. There's a show that I didn't watch, but my wife loved, called Crash Landing on You, where a South Korean ends up in North Korea by mistake, meets a North Korean officer and falls in love, and it's all about their trying to stay together. That stars Hyun Bin, who's another huge Korean star. So, but yeah, he's also so good. The Good, the Bad, and the Weird was the one I referenced earlier. That Lee Byung Hun is also in and starring, and I'd recommend this. It's wacky. It's a very, very wacky movie. I don't know. Have you guys ever seen this one?
That's on my list. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I think it's well worth it. It's a lot of fun. As I say, it's also got Song Kang-ho, who's in Joint Security Area in a smaller role, but it's also got Don Lee in it in a role. So sorry, Song Kang-ho is on the right hand side there. So these guys do appear in a lot of movies together over the years. Whether they're friends or not, who knows? But Don Lee also has a smaller part in this one. Great movie, a lot of fun. This is Emergency Declaration, which was a movie that was out last year. It was quite a big hit in Korea. It's basically and it stars Lee Byung-hun and Song Kang-ho. Song Kang-ho is the detective on the ground. Lee Byung-hun is a passenger on the plane, and it's basically a pandemic-based disaster movie. So no one's going to claim it's high art, but it's certainly dramatic. And it's got some real tropes in it, in that Lee Byung-hun is a former pilot who's lost. He's scared of flying now because he had a bad accident. So there's you can tell what's going to happen in this movie. I think he's going to be in that cockpit eventually. But basically, it's a biological warfare thing where a guy releases a disgruntled psycho, who's the guy in the middle, releases a virus on a plane. And it was interesting from the fact that it showed some of the passengers basically shunning and forcing the other passengers to the back of the plane because they felt they were more risky than other passengers.
Where have I seen that before?
That's a weird plot concept, isn't it? Yeah. I enjoyed it immensely, though. It was a lot of fun. The guy on the ground's busy trying to figure out who this guy was and what he's doing and how to find the sample of what it is he's releasing. And another interesting aspect of it, I don't think I'm giving too much away because I would say to people watch it, I think this may be on Netflix, I'm not entirely sure, is no one on the ground will let them land. So the Japanese, they're trying to fly to Hawaii. The Americans tell them to fuck off, F off. So they turn back they try to land in Japan. The Japanese threaten to shoot them down. They go to Korea, their own country, and they say, "Oh, we're not letting you land either." So they're going, "Well, one way or another, we're coming out of the sky. Where do you want us?" Which I found was quite amusing. But yeah, it's a pretty neat disaster movie thriller, if you want to call it a disaster action movie. So yeah, very much enjoyed that. So that I'm going to cover some TV stuff that Lee Byung-hun did later. I don't know how we feel about showing trailers, Martin and John. I know that we do occasionally show them.
Yeah.
I'd like to show a little bit of a trailer if I could.
Just interrupted.
Yeah, for joint security area, I think is worth just giving people a little peek of that trailer if the audience is interested. If they're not, then they'll tell me to go away.
Now.
Are we doing well so far, gents?
Yeah.
Am I over talking? That's
no, that's
I am a bit of an over talker.
John and I are famously by not talking, so it's all good.
Actually, I didn't. I'll look back for that later. Sorry, I do have that trailer, but I've mislaid it. We'll come back to that. So I do want to show a joint security area trailer later. So I want to go back to the actor side of things. So the other guy that we saw in joint security area, who's become a bit of an international star too, because of a couple of particular things. One is, so this is Song Kang-ho, who we saw in a couple of movies with Lee Byung-hun there. He did a great movie called Taxi Driver, which if you've never seen it, it's really nice. Thank you, Christian. Appreciate you saying that, my friend. But also, I think the most famous movie he's been in is Parasite, which was a critical hit in the West. I think it's okay.
Yeah, I didn't really. It was it wasn't something I really got into. I mean, I watched it, but
yeah, and it features another set of. So Parasite features another set of Japanese Korean tropes, which is the class strata,
yeah,
and the interaction or otherwise between them, and the fact that there's certain really high classes in Korea and others are still kind of dirt poor or scrabbling about. It was a poor country. It's a rich country now, but there's still a lot of poor, hardworking people in it. and this kind of envy or ability to, how can I get into that world? And because he tries to infiltrate that world to destroy it, but it ends up slightly differently. It's a little bit too arty for me, but it was okay. I much prefer him in roles like Taxi Driver. He was in Snowpiercer, which is an interesting movie because it's a Korean movie, really, but it's full of Western stars.
There's a few Korean movies that are like that. Colossal.
Yeah.
That's another one that comes to top of my head there. Of course, that's a kaiju movie, so of course I'm going to reference that one.
Well, yeah, but that's okay. So Colossal, yeah, I actually have not seen that one yet. It's on my list, but could you just expound a little bit on that one?
In a nutshell, real quick, it's about this woman who can discovers she controls a kaiju. And her actions are what the kaiju does. And it's just, there's just how she interacts with people and stuff. And it's whether it's kind of a study on whether that kind of power would go to somebody's head or not.
I would be surprised if it didn't. It would go to my head. I would be, what can I do with this power?
Yeah.
Once I've done the first 100 on my list, should I do the second 100? Yeah. No, it's on my list, mate. I definitely want to see that. And I was not aware, as I think I said earlier, that I knew there was a lot of Japanese kaiju. Well, if you consider Godzilla and all those movies to be part of that, I've seen many, many of those. I had not realized there was Korean ones too.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned one. Yeah, there's one we want to play the trailer of later that you told me about last night. What's the name?
Focusari.
Yeah, so we're going to play the trailer for that later because I watched it and I thought that looks interesting.
Yeah, that's the actual North Korean one.
Yeah. So there's one of those sounds that Martin told me to look out for that I just heard. Oh, have I seen the private chat? There we go. Well, we're just now. It's funny. We were just getting on. I was just about to talk about the host. You're ahead of me. So, because Park Hae-soo, Song Kang-ho. Forgive me if I get the names wrong. I can't even remember the names of English actors now. He was the star of The Host, which is a fantastic creature horror movie. It's true, it is one of the greatest monster movies ever made, as it says here. I think Bong Joon-ho, the director, is he is the same director that made Snowpiercer and Parasite. Yep. So he obviously likes to work with Song Kang-ho. The Host is a brilliant movie.
Not only director, but writer.
Writer too, yeah.
He writes most, or better put, he directs all that he writes and has written almost everything that he has directed.
Yeah, so he's one of the leading directors and writers there. He does like to work with Song Kang-ho. He's worked with him at least three, maybe four movies that I can think of. Parasite being one of them. Snowpiercer. Yeah. Snowpiercer is an interesting film because I actually loved it. And how Korean is it though, really? it's a Korean written and directed with some Korean actors in it, but the main cast is all American.
But he didn't he didn't direct the movie, just the TV series.
Oh, I thought he directed the movie.
So the series.
Right.
Yeah.
But he did write the movie. Bong Joon-ho, they would say. Juno.
That movie, The Host, I think it was the first Korean movie I ever saw.
Yeah. So he did direct Snowpiercer the movie, but he didn't write it by the looks of it.
Oh, right.
He may have written the TV series as well, but he didn't write the movie. And I enjoy it. I thought it was one of the best sci-fi movies of recent times. I think the whole thing was brilliantly done. Cinematography was great. That's another great aspect of these Korean things, is generally the cinematography and production designs are fantastic.
The unofficial sequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
That's right.
Yeah.
Snowpiercer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it has some of those elements. Yeah.
In fact, I think Chris is Charlie.
Is he? All right. I need to look up that. Yes, but I'll take your word for it.
There's plenty of videos about that on YouTube.
Yeah, and that's a piece of lore that I need to look into more then. But I just love the whole way that they'd lined the train up in classes, which is another big trope in Korean TV that in movies, the class system. I know it is in Western.
Yeah. I don't remember the name of it. The first Korean movie I saw was a historic epic.
Well, that's another. I have a list of them here. Things that you'll see a lot of in Korean entertainment. One is historical epics, particularly centered around the Joseon dynasty, both the earlier version and then the later dynasty. It was Go-Joseon, then Joseon. The Joseon being the last one. And in fact, Mr. Sunshine, one of my all-time favorite television shows, is set in that era. There's a lot of stuff set back in that era, which really went from like the 1400s to the 1910, and a lot of it featuring struggles between them and Japan and them and China, or Manchuria as it was at times.
Yeah.
But Snowpiercer, yeah. So that director and Park Hae-soo worked together a lot. We're not going to do Don Lee yet. I've jumped ahead of myself. I did have images of The Host. So The Host, which is a very thrilling movie, very enjoyable. Don't you just love that picture?
They're really original in their monster designs too.
Oh God, yeah, that's great. Would not like to be that girl. And then, of course, he was in Parasite. This Park Hae-soo. Here he is in his own family, struggling a bit. Food is a big obsession as well. So that's another trope of Korean TV and movies: food and drink. Apparently, and forgive me in Korea if anyone's watching, apparently you drink an awful lot. Drinking is big, and soju is one of the drinks that they do. So let's go have soju and talk about our problems. I don't know what soju is. It's some kind of rice wine, I guess, or rice spirit. But the soju and then a lot of beer. They do like to drink. They like to go to karaoke bars and drink, and the private ones, and drink and sing, and they love to eat. And another trope is always, let's go for beef. Because for many years, they were poor and there was no beef. Only the rich ate beef. So now it's a delicacy. So you'll see even in shows today in Korea, that kind of, I'll treat you all to beef. The detective, chief of detectives, I'll treat my team to beef and soju. Yeah. I like that. It's kind of neat. So Parasite was a critically acclaimed hit. I think it did quite well commercially. As I say, it's okay. He's good. The actor, Park Hae-soo is good. But sorry, I keep saying that. He's in Money Heist. Song Kang-ho. But we are now going to move to some other popular stuff. Let me just get my notes here. So a guy called Don Lee. Let me call Don Lee's pictures up. Another major star who has been in Western movies like The Eternals. May God forgive him. And I hope in the chat that you guys are enjoying this. It's some of this may be new. Some of you guys may be completely au fait with this, but this is the kind of stuff that I'm watching right now. I'm watching in the last few years. So Don Lee, which is the anglicized version of his name, it's Ma Dong-suk is his Korean name, is also a major star, and it's not hard to see why. He's a big guy, very confident actor, dominates a lot of scenes, has the hardest slap in the movies. So the two films that I love mainly, the most that I love that he did were, well, apart from Train to Busan, were The Outlaws and The Roundup, where he plays the beast cop, as they call him. And he just basically comes in and slaps people. So there'll be some punk with a gun or a knife terrorizing people. He walks right through the crowd and goes up and just slaps them. And he slaps them again and again until the guy drops the knife. You have to see these movies. They're very funny, the Outlaws and The Roundup. But he's appeared in The Good, the Bad, and the Weird with Lee Byung-hun. He's in Train to Busan. Obviously, big hit. The guy in the background is also a well-known Korean actor these days, Gong Yoo. This was their kind of a breakthrough for these guys. Became probably the first Korean movie that I'd really heard of that I could think of. I think it's about 2007.
Yeah. Now I think it's a sequel. I when I watched it, I didn't quite pick it up. It seems like a sequel. There's the same director did another movie called Peninsula, which is,
I think that was later.
Yeah, that was 4 years later, after Train to Busan, because it was Train to Busan was 2016.
Was it 2016? No,
Peninsula's 2020.
So it was 2016, not 20. For some reason, I had 2007 in my head. Yeah, I loved it again. I mean, it takes that. Although several scenes are outside in the world, I love the fact it's set in a constricted space on the train.
Yeah.
They've got no real weapons, so they've got to use like a baseball bat. They tape their arms up, and they're just ordinary guys. I mean, Gong Yoo is the guy behind them. Is really just a kind of quiet dad. I mean, he's not an action guy. Obviously, Don Lee's a big guy, so and it didn't. And I like it's got fast zombies, which is always good. But just their will to survive and to get to Busan where they anticipate some kind of safety. The threat is there all the way, and it doesn't end. It has a bittersweet ending.
Yeah.
I don't want to give it away. If people want to watch it, I would recommend, if you're going to start anywhere with Korean movies, this is the one to start with.
Yeah, between this one and The Host.
Yeah, The Host. I will go with The Host.
This and The Host, you will get a great idea of what Korean genre action movies are like. There are many other great movies in other genres, but these two are the prime examples of those. So Gong Yoo, who's behind him, we'll talk about him in a little bit. But I'm going to go into him. He was also in this movie. But other things that... So both of them were in Train to Busan. That poster is very interesting because it doesn't tell you who's going to live or die. And a lot of people die. Great movie, great design. It actually made me, and you know what? It was for me. It made me go look at a map and say, "Where's Busan?" Everyone's heard of Seoul. Now I know all these other cities in Korea because they're on these movies and TV shows. Like, oh, Busan's down there. So if you did take the train, it would take you 4 hours to get there.
Yeah.
And it's on a peninsula, so it could be protected if you had the right whatever. I did love it. It's a fun, exciting movie, like edge of the seat. But also, two movies I would recommend. If you like cop action thrillers with a lot of martial arts and people getting slapped, Don Lee stars in The Outlaws, and it's follow-up The Roundup, and he's making a third one this year. Same director does both of those. It's the director's a guy called Yoon Seong Kang, And he also does a show that I'm watching right now. I'm going to talk about in a little while called Big Bet. It's on right now. He's a great director. These two are kick-ass movies. And I wouldn't say that the plots were revolutionary. It's bad guy, gangster, multiple killer, cops trying to take him down. End of story. Lots of fights. And it does feature, though, one of the major tropes, again, of Korean TV and movies, which is people getting stabbed. There's not so much gunplay in Korean movies. In fact, whenever you see the detective shows, they've all got the same rubber revolver that they carry. Pretty sure it's rubber. Because clearly they got very strict gun laws, I guess. So The Outlaws is a prime example of all the bad guys carry knives. And at some point in every show or movie, the good guys are going to get stabbed. And it looks terrible. They get stabbed right in the gut. But by some miracle, they're never stabbed in an artery or their vital organs. And although it looks bad, the next day you see them in hospital and the day after they're out. So,
Yeah, fine. Just flesh wound.
That's right, you're okay, because that bad guy who stabbed you so viciously and made a big deal of it, he missed every major organ. Incredible.
Hey, Sax.
Hey, Zach, good to see you, buddy. Cosmic Squirrel is here too. Penny, I've noticed. I hope you're all enjoying this. I'm having a lot of fun. I've not had the chance to talk about a lot of these on my own channel, so this is great. And I do want to talk about stuff like that on here. That is a little bit different from how I normally talk about. I have made some videos on Korean stuff, but for The Outlaws, there you go. He's about to deliver the slap. And he also has another trick where there's one guy in particular who's an actor, is also in a lot of stuff. I can't remember his name. You see him every time I see him, I go, "Oh, that guy was in the Roundup." He grabs this guy by the balls all the time, and he's got the guy so well conditioned. He goes, "Come over here, come over here." There's a lot of humor in this, and he's built a great team. The team around him are really good, the detectives, and they operate mainly in the Chinatown in Seoul, but they do travel outside of that. Like the second movie, The Roundup, he heads over to the Philippines initially, I think it is, and he's chasing this guy. Now the plot is almost identical. It's psychotic but charming bad guy who wants to deal drugs or whatever, and comes up against these guys who are trying to take him down. Now, but the villain in this is a guy called Suku Son, who I'm going to talk about quite a lot. He's in a lot of great stuff. He is just unbelievable in this. Brilliant villain, one of the best I've seen in it. And the epic battles between him and Don Lee's character, they're incredible. Like there's just multiple. The martial arts action in this is brilliant, well choreographed. And there's a great scene on a bus, with a fight on a bus, which obviously we saw in Nobody as well, in the film Nobody. This one's even better, in my opinion. It's awesome. So, the Roundup, yeah. And I'm glad to say they're making a third one. Really, really happy about that. So Don Lee's, he's been in a lot of these things. He actually was also in The Eternals, which good for him that he's getting offered roles in the West. Yeah. I mean, that's good for him. I'm not going to knock him for that. So might not be my cup of tea, but
And he was a bright spot in that movie. So
yeah, he didn't have any of the political bullshit and whatever. This is another major reason why I'm leaning towards things like Korean, Japanese, and Indian entertainment these days, and even some stuff from the Philippines and Indonesia. Whilst they deal with political concerns of their own country, they're not dealing with that imposed progressiveness that's affecting Western entertainment. So you'll still get strong guys that do macho things. The women are still strong too. It doesn't diminish them, but you're still getting strong action guys. You're still getting people with real concerns, not fake concerns. You know, they're worried about a murderer. They're not worried about somebody misgendering them or whatever. You know, it's that kind of thing is still in the plots. Their plots deal with things to do with North Korea, things to do with drugs and the problem of drugs. Or the historical dramas will deal with the Japanese occupation or so on. They're not dealing with, oh my God, somebody looked at me sideways and I'm upset. So that's why I love it as entertainment. You know, they're not diminishing the male characters. There's still some male idiots, but there's male idiots in the world. So
Yeah.
So I do love the roundup. Brilliant stuff. And his co-star in that was a guy called Gong Yu, who, this is a clip from or scene from The Silent Sea, which was a Netflix sci-fi thing that he was in. I enjoyed it immensely. I've had people tell me they thought it was terrible, but I thought it was good.
I abandoned it. I couldn't stand it. I freaking hate that show. I'm sorry.
So what was it about it you didn't like?
Where to begin?
Begin at the beginning.
The variable state of gravity. If you're on the station, you have gravity. You have 1G. If you're out of the station, then suddenly you have moon gravity. I don't like. Well, this is your show. I don't want to be a
no. I
Debbie
want to know,
Downer.
because I've heard that one before and I agree with it. That there were inconsistencies in that stuff. The one that did puzzle me and I thought was a bit stupid was that they left the guy outside to die at the beginning of the show. Why didn't they could just carry him into the station?
Because drama.
Because it's a quarter of the Earth's gravity or the sixth of the Earth's gravity. Just pick the guy up and carry him in. He doesn't have to walk. So that was a bit weird. But on the other hand, I enjoyed some of the production design stuff. I liked the cast.
Oh yeah, the production design was on point. That is undeniable, and I will die on that hill. Yeah. But the rest of the show, I didn't like. I didn't like the story. I didn't like the characters. I didn't like it.
I quite liked it. I liked the cast. I liked the production design. I wasn't quite so keen in elements of the plot, but you know, I just think it looked good enough to watch, and I enjoyed it. So, but I respect you not enjoying it, and other people have given me the same concerns, and I'm not saying I'm right. It's just what I liked. So, but anyway, he was the star of that. He's also appeared in a bunch of other things. But here he is again.
Was he the star, or was the
girl was the star? Girl. He was a major part of it because he is a star. He was in at one point a show I'm going to talk about, which was the biggest Korean TV show ever, called Guardian, the Lonely and Great God, or sometimes called Goblin. That was the biggest ratings TV show at the time in Korea when he was in it, and he was the star of that. So he is a star in Korea. Train to Busan, obviously we talked about. This is funny because this is him in this Guardian, the Lonely Great God, and he takes the girl to a movies to watch a zombie movie. Clearly, Train to Busan is implied. and he shits himself throughout the entire movie. It's a very, very funny scene, but it's clearly Train to Busan they're talking about when he talks about it. So very self-referential, I would say. Have I got more of him? Oh no, that's a different guy, Hyun Bin. Sorry. So Gong, yeah. Let me go back to. You'll have to forgive me while I fiddle about here. So Train to Busan, The Outlaws, The Roundup. So this guy's also been in. I don't have it here. Shit. That's a different guy. We'll come back to that. So Gong Yu has been in a few things. Oh yeah, it's in the TV side. So I got TV. These are movies. I'll come to the TV stuff in a minute. Oh, there we go. TV shows. Yeah, so this Gong Yu guy was in the show Guardian. I'll just put it on the screen. Now, this is an example. I wanted to talk about this show a little bit because a lot of people would hate this show. And I could understand why. This is a romantic fantasy. It was called Guardian, the Great, Lonely and Great God. And it sometimes was called Goblin because his character is meant to be a resurrected warlord from the early Joseon era who was brutally murdered or betrayed by his king, basically, who he fought for. And then he's resurrected. He lives for, he's going to live indefinitely because he's been resurrected as this goblin, which is a Korean folk tale in a sense. And they're supposed to guard over ordinary people and occasionally help them out, whatever. Here he is in Quebec City. They filmed a lot of it in Quebec City in Canada. And so I think we got about a minute to break. Is that right?
Yeah,
let me know when we're going. So the other great thing about this Guardian show is that this character here was introduced, who was the Grim Reaper, or is a Grim Reaper. There are multiple Grim Reapers. He's one of them, and the two of them have this love-hate relationship. The character that's being played by Gong Yu remembers his past. The Grim Reaper does not remember his past, but he knows that he's been condemned to be the Grim Reaper because he did something horrible.
Well, and with that, we are going to break. And hold on to that thought. Let me take this away.
Do it.
And do it now.
Hi guys, this is Gary from Pop Culture Minefield here on KGRA, and we're leaving for our first break. I hope we survive.
A birthday without her mom, an anniversary without her husband, her wedding day without her dad. These are the days when military families feel it most of all. The loss of their soldier, their sailor, their airman, their Marine, their Coast Guardsman. Families never forget their loved ones lost to war or illness or suicide. Families never forget. And neither do we. We are TAPS, the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors. We provide resources, support, and comfort to heal the hearts and meet the needs of grieving military families, all at no cost to them. Your generosity can make an enormous difference in the lives of the families of our fallen military heroes. Our military families need to know they are not alone and they are not forgotten. Show them your support at taps.org.
Facing humanity is on the verge of being settled once and for all. The Mutual UFO Network has been at the forefront of this journey for nearly 50 years. Our members worldwide are dedicated to the research, documentation, and awareness that will shape the future of humanity. Won't you join us?
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Oh wow, we survived. Welcome back to the commercial break. Now for some more Pop Culture Minefield on KGRA.
Well, welcome back, everybody, and it's nice to. I thought I just heard Gary there, and I thought he might have slipped in through the back door.
Oh my!
Oh my! Oh my!
Well, I'm here.
And yes, Zax mentions that she's this guy Gong Yu, who's the star of Silent Sea and Guardian. his wife calls him the good-looking one. Well, that's what my wife calls him too. And I've been watching some of these because we agree to watch certain things together, and one of them was this show, which I have some complaints about it. This Guardian TV show, which was the biggest TV show in Korean history in 2016. It's a slow show. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of filler, but when it gets to the point, it's really good. And it's basically another one of these Korean things you'll see a lot of, tropes, fantasy shows with Korean legends involved. So these guys are a goblin and a grim reaper, but they're in modern form. And they are connected, they just don't know how. And there's some really quite emotional stuff in as it goes. There's action too. It's not entirely all just romance, but he does some action stuff too. Here he is back as the warlord, basically killing about 1,000 guys in 3 minutes. Which is, there's a lot of sword wielding going on. And a large part of the show is about the romance between him and this girl. And I love one of the aspects I love about Korean TV shows, particularly mainstream ones, not maybe art house ones where there'll be a lot of sex, is the romances are really sweet. It takes them 16 episodes before they even kiss. In fact, most of the time they just stand looking at each other. So the romance side is really slow. If it was a Western TV show, they'd be in bed within 5 minutes. They don't do that in Korean shows. There's very little nudity, and the romances are really drawn out. There's antagonism at first, and there's misunderstanding, and it grows. And I actually think that's kind of sweet, you know. Like, in fact, the romance in the show I'm going to talk about soon, Mr. Sunshine, I don't think they even kiss in the end, and it's like 20 episodes. But it's central to the show, but they don't just leap in there and start groping each other, you know. It's another trope of Korean television. So yeah, Gong Yoo was in that. He's also in a show. He's in The Silent Sea we talked about. He's in Squid Game briefly. He's not a major character in it, but he's in it. He's the guy in the railway station, if you've ever watched it, that talks to people to get them to take part in the game. So he's like kind of one of their MCs or whatever. It's hard to describe his role in that. But anyway, Guardian, it's a long, drawn-out show, a lot of romance, but it also features some of my favorite Korean B-list actors in it that appear in other shows, like Mr. Sunshine. Has a real villain, a really strong villain in it. Quite satisfying in the end. It takes its time to get there. I could see why it would be popular on mainstream Korean television. So where do we go from here? Is it down to the lake? I fear. So another guy that Mrs. Rock fan is quite keen on for some unknown reason. This guy Hyun Bin, who's a bit of a hottie, I guess. He's the guy that was the North Korean officer in Crash Landing on You. And this is him here in a film called The Negotiation, which if you ever watch is pretty neat. It's a sort of hostage movie with a twist, as they always have, of course. He's the bad guy in it. Well, apparently. So she's pretty good at him. But he's also in a movie coming up, which I'm really quite interested in, called The Point Men. Bears some similarities to The Covenant, which is coming out soon, the guy Richie, Jake Gyllenhaal. And this one I do have a trailer for, because I'm very interested in this movie. So I'm going to try and play that without getting us struck to hell and back.
You know, in that movie works Fahim Fazli, a dear friend of this channel.
Sorry, say again?
Fahim Fazli.
Right.
He works in that movie.
Yeah, it looks really good. It's set in Afghanistan. It's a hostage stroke prisoner rescue featuring South Koreans. I've seen a few South Korean things where they're in Afghanistan and Iraq, so they must have taken part to some extent. Excuse me, but this one looks pretty good. I didn't know there was a connection to the channel, so that's even better to know. So we'll just have a quick look at this trailer if you guys are okay with that.
Of course.
All right, so do it. Do it.
외교부의 중요 사명 중 하나는 자국민의 보호라고 알고 있습니다.
현재 저희의 정예 요원이 현지 코디네이터와 함께 핵심 인물 접촉 중에 있습니다.
우리한테는 하루밖에 시간이 없습니다. 가정 교섭안이 뭡니까?
그 특정한 또라이 맞지?
생각만 하다가 사람들 다 죽어나가는 풍경인데 이 사람이 진짜 국민 몰타이 탈사된다. 제대로 된 검증부터 먼저 해야 됩니다. 협상이 틀어졌습니다. 요구 조건을 변경하겠답니다.
No trust, no deal.
우리를 도와주겠대. 탈레반과 대면 협상을 하게 해주십시오. 제가 직접 설득해 보겠습니다.
방법은 하나뿐이야.
마지막 기회입니다. 어떻게 된 거야? 군사작전 돌입한다는데! 협상이 아직 안 끝났지 않습니까? 지금 작전 들어가면 제일 먼저 교도관이 위험하다고! I won't send you to hell first! 안 돼! 저는 포기할 수 없습니다.
Yeah, so I'm pretty keen on that. Looks really good. I'll make sure I remove the right screen and don't pull you guys out. So yeah, I didn't realize that was we had a connection in the channel to that movie. That's neat. Good to know. I think this is part of Hyun Bin's reinvention of himself from his earlier days as a sort of romantic, good-looking guy the ladies would love into more of an action star. So everything he's done is at a harder edge going forward. I know that there's a TV show that he was in a TV show called Memories of the Alabama, which is actually an interesting show. Again, it's a little slow. They do pad it out.
My wife loves that show.
Yeah, I watched it with my wife. Because of him, she wanted to watch it. The premise of it is good, and it's about a VR game that you can get stuck in. They just dragged it out a little bit. But it looked great. He was good, and the premise of the game was good, but I think it could have been a little more action-oriented than it really was. Some of the fight stuff within the game was good, but then there was about 2 episodes of canoodling, as I would call it, until they got to the next action. But he was great in it, and she really loved that show. So he's yeah. So this is some images from the show itself, so you can see it wasn't all just romance and whatever. But yeah, in the game, and some of them were bots in the game, but there was people in the game that were stuck in it and weren't bots. You'd have to watch it to get it. And in fact, in the end, the main guy remains stuck in the game, even though he saves everybody else. So, oops, spoiler alert. So that's pretty good. No, but yeah, he's reinventing himself, I would say, as an action star. So this does look good. He does look pretty cool in this, I have to say. So it's amazing what having the beard does. Put the beard on, immediately action star. I seem to have 2 windows open here. Okay, so let me take that out. There we go. That was the trailer. So that's Hyun Bin, who's another one. It's interesting you say your wife watched that, because I've seen a number of these through that route. Okay, let me just almost wrapped up with the sort of actors side of things. I'll just call up the next one. A couple more to go. A few of my favorite actors. Oh yeah, this guy. And in fact, this sorry, just to continue with this guy. the girl that's in some of the let me show that the girl that's in some of these films with him, Son Yi Yin, is his actual wife. She's in the negotiation as well, and she does so. There's a lot of star couples in Korea, just like the West.
Hello,
Hey,
Courtney.
Hello, Courtney. So my next guy I wanted to talk about is one of both my wife and I's favorites. For some reason, she likes this guy too, and I have no idea why. I just don't get it. I mean, look, you could do with a wash, and those tats are horrible.
I'm starting to see a pattern here.
However, this is a guy called Suku Son or Son Suku, depending on how he westernizes his name. He is the star of a number of TV shows. Designated Survivor, the Korean version, where he played a chief of staff. Show called DP, which I want to talk about in a little bit. And he was also in Sense8, which was a Western show, obviously. But in terms of movies, he's been in a couple of things recently I've really enjoyed. He was the villain in The Roundup, which is what this is from. So this is from The Roundup with Don Lee. He was the bad guy in this. He absolutely kicks ass in it. He's a psycho, but with a sense of humor. Even he says, "Oh, that guy's got really bad manners," and then he proceeds to kill him. So I'd recommend the Roundup, Outlaws first, and then The Roundup. And this guy's the villain in it. He's in a lot of stuff in smaller roles. He's currently in he's in a show we watched season 1 of, and season 2 we're really looking forward to, called DP, which I do want to talk about in a little more in a second or two. He was also in Squid Game, as just about everybody was. Well, that's Berlin, so I'm going to go back. Let me call up the shows he's in. But he does a lot of different. He's done some drama, but he's starting to move into more action stuff. My window isn't responding. Oh, there we go.
Oh, welcome to the club.
Yeah. God damn them all to hell. He is the star of this movie, which I want to play the trailer of too. One of the stars, he's up here. It's called Phantom. And I'm really waiting to get a copy of this from somewhere. This was released in the cinema in South Korea in January. It's a set during the Japanese occupation. And these are all Japanese people who are suspected. One of them is suspected of being a spy for the Koreans. So they take them and imprison them on this island, and all sorts of shit goes on to find out who the spy is. So he's playing a Japanese army officer in it. So that looks pretty good. Let me just call this up here. So, oh yeah, DP. So DP is Son Suku plays an officer in this. I'll talk about this show right now. It's also on Netflix, and there's a second season coming. It's really one of the most interesting shows I've seen from Korea. So another big thing in Korea is, and it's in a lot of their movies and shows, is they have a draft. So they still do. Every male, I'm not so sure about the women, every male has to do 2 years military service, I guess, because of the continuing position with the North. So DP is a show about runaways, deserters. So Deserter Patrol, I think is what DP stands for in this instance. Son Suku plays the officer in it. Not very good officer. So these guys are drafted, but almost immediately, if they're drafted into the military police, they're sent out to catch these guys that have deserted. So each episode, across multiple episodes, there's various stories there, and it shows a lot of bullying in the army and a lot of guys that are just not cut out for it. Like there's a guy who's an anime, he loves to draw anime, and he's being bullied by the officers. And so these guys just leave, or they're just like, fuck this shit, I'm out, because they're not into being in the military, but they all have to do it. But these young guys are pressed into service to catch them. it's a really good show, like really interesting. It was at times it was funny, and they're allowed the things because if they're in this patrol, they're allowed to put civilian clothes on and go out into the cities looking for these guys. So it's a kind of escape for them from the regime of the barracks, where they all live in a little room together, just sleeping on futons on the floor, and there's a lot of hazing and bullying going on. But they get the chance to then go out and catch these other guys, or not, as the case may be, and there was quite a dramatic ending. It didn't paint the Korean part of the Korean army in a good light. Let's put it that way. So I wouldn't say it was necessarily entirely against the Korean army, but it didn't paint them in such a good light. So that's Suku Son, who's one of the stars of it. He was also in the Korean version of Designated Survivor, which I quite enjoyed. I mean, it was fairly formulaic, but I quite enjoyed it, and he was good. Kind of telegraphed. You kind of knew who the bad guy was, but I've never watched the American one, so I'll go back. So, and he's also in a couple of other shows, but we'll come to this. So, Son Suku, another guy that I'm really keen on, or Suku Son, if you want to call it that. I want to go back to. I know I'm jumping about a bit here, so forgive me. I'll close these down and we'll get started again. We got too many windows open.
Well, that's why they have the DP.
There is a back door out of the Korean military. There's also a back door in, according to the show. But
so, for Sax, we have to play a video.
You got to.
Open your back door, baby. Loosen your hinges, I'll show you my key.
Indeed. So sorry, I incorrectly identified this guy earlier as Suku Son. It's the Squid Game was a bit of an interesting show because it brought together a number of stars in various roles. Lee Byung-hun was in it as the master of ceremonies, although you didn't find that out until halfway through. Gong Yoo was in it. This guy was in it too, Park Hae-soo, who was also in Memories of the Alabama. Funnily enough, they're doing a second season of Squid Game, and you think virtually everybody dies. His character's going to be in it. I can't remember how he got out of dying, if he did. Maybe they're going to budget. I've heard some stories about, like, the North Korean girl that was in it. You didn't see her die. You didn't actually physically see her die. So they're thinking that she may be in the next one. So he's an actor who he's in that movie Phantom, but he was a big part of the Money Heist Korea. Have you ever seen that version of Money Heist?
No.
I've never seen the Spanish original. I watched this and it was awesome. Really, really good. So a bunch of guys go into the central bank and again, they've got this fantasy area they call Joint Economic Area with North Korea. So it's set in a kind of a fantasy Korea where the two have built this area where both sets of citizens can live, and it's a special area. Well, they go into the bank there to rob it. But it's not like all these things. There's more to it than it appears. There's political reasons, not just economic. He plays Berlin, the character Berlin. He is awesome, kicks ass. One of the best characters I've seen in a TV show in many years. So, and there he is in the Phantom movie as the Japanese officer. Showing, and the other thing about Korean stuff, where there's a lot of stuff about them and the Japanese. They're not very happy with each other. Well, the Koreans are not very happy with the Japanese.
Japan pissed off a lot of people.
Yes, and I kind of want to get to that now. And I hope this is, I know I'm kind of just running through a bunch of stuff I like. I hope everybody's okay with that. There's a TV show that I really love, and my wife really loves it. She kind of got me into watching it, and at first I went, "Oh, this is a romance. I'm not going to like this." Not that I'm not a sensitive romantic guy. It ended up being one of my favorite television shows of all time. It's called Mr. Sunshine. Now, I'm a bit of a sucker for historical dramas, so I used to love things like The Pillars of the Earth and Shogun and all those rich man, poor man, all those big historical dramas. I love those big budget ones. They're great. So Mr. Sunshine, which I'm going to show one of the trailers of, was set in the starts in the late 1800s, which is the era where Korea was coming out of its hermit kingdom status, and all these other major powers were trying to open it up and economically exploit it. So it's the end of the Joseon dynasty, the last Joseon emperor. And you have the Russians, the Americans, the British, the French, the Chinese, and the Japanese all in there trying to take control of this poor, defenseless little country, because it was, compared to them, and exploit it economically, the Japanese particularly. So I'll show you a little bit of this trailer.
적인가? 아군인가?
네 해병대 대위 유진초요.
휘하는 내가 누군지 모르지 않소.
아마 내 긴 이야기가 끝나면 우린 따로 떠나게 될 거예요.
So the first thing is it's the weirdest title because you think, what's that got to do with Mr. Sunshine? Where does that come from? Someone's just slipped in through the back door. Gary.
I didn't want to pop in the middle of that trailer.
Yeah, well, there was too much romance in it for you. It was really romantic.
I was watching it on YouTube and then I bounced over and I'm like, okay, I'll jump in now.
The thing about that trailer is it displays exactly how romances work out in Korean TV shows. They stand staring at each other for minutes on end. Don't even touch. Now, that couple in that show, the entire show is centered around their romance. I don't think they even kiss to the end of the show. They barely even touch each other.
Yeah, clearly not an American show.
Exactly. Like American show, they would have been in bed within 2 minutes. So
and then decide if they like each other.
Yeah, and then decided they hated each other. No.
Let's get the fucking out of the way.
and to be honest, I preferred it that way. It was great. The tension between them and the unrequited love because of their positions was great. It made
what
for
creates
it.
tension.
And at the end, I'm gonna give it away. He sacrifices himself to save her life after they finally declare their love for each other. And it's awesome stuff. Beautiful cinematography, gorgeously filmed, beautiful set recreation of the 1800s. Just everything about that show was quality.
Well, it falls under the category of what I've talked about before, that people don't understand, especially Westerners don't understand romance anymore. That the truest form of romance is the willingness to lay down your life for another person.
Yes, and they both absolutely love each other, even though they've never so much as slept together.
Hi, Court. Hi, Alex.
And yeah, hey.
Hi, Monkey.
So I actually like that, and I'm not saying everything in Korea is like that. There are obviously Korean movies where people are leaping in.
Oh, I've seen some Korean crap, and that's
Yeah.
crap with a K.
But the mainstream stuff, and Mr.
Crap.
Sunshine is mainstream Korean, a huge hit on mainstream Korean television.
Yeah.
Same guys that made the Guardian show. But it's better, and it captures the period well. There's a lot of. It's not just romance. There's a ton of action, a lot of the main Yakuza guy in it, who's supposedly representing the Japanese Yakuza, but he's really a Korean. He does a lot of great action stuff in it. There's a lot of sword fighting, a lot of shooting and explosions and whatever. And the girl is the key to everything, of course. That is one thing.
Yeah.
She is the key to everything because she's part of the Korean resistance to the Japanese. The American guy.
When is this taking place, in the 1800s or early 1900s?
Starts in about 1888 and it ends in about 1910. So it goes on for quite a while. Let me just.
I like period pieces like that. I really do.
I love it. It's beautifully recreated. The guy here on this side is a guy, the guy that's got the Yakuza gear on is Yu Yeon Suk, and he is been in a lot of other things. He is brilliant in this. And the thing is, when you see him without the gear on, he kind of looks like your average K-pop guy. As soon as he's got the tash and the goatee and he gets the samurai gear on, he looks the part. He smolders in this. And they're all great. The three men all have the hots for the girl. One's a fiance, but an arranged marriage. This is Lee Byung-hong plays an American Marine because he was adopted by Americans as an orphan and taken to America when he was a little kid. And he comes back as an American soldier to be part of the American delegation in the embassy, but he's also a spy. But he meets the girl because he sees her out at night shooting some Japanese guy or whatever, and he goes, "Oh, that's interesting," and so meets her. And at first he's trying to exploit her for information, but then they start to fall for each other. The girl at the end runs the hotel, which is the center of all the intrigue going on. All the foreigners live in it. All the deals go down there, and she hears everything. So she's a spy, but you don't know she's a spy for the Japanese or for the Koreans or for somebody else. And her husband who she hates, is a brutal Japanese politician who's trying to control Korea. So the whole thing is set amongst the Japanese occupation, and Americans are trying to do stuff to the Russians, the Chinese. It's a beautiful show. If you love historical dramas, it nails it. Absolutely nails it. I learned so much about Korean history, and it's very emotional at the end. Very emotional, genuinely emotional. I loved it. And people would say, "Oh, that's a girly movie," whatever. No, it's got something for everybody.
Yeah, so some people think that romance is for women. It's like, no, if it's done well. I mean, somebody said something, about tragedy, and the fact is, some of the greatest romantic stories throughout history are tragic stories.
Yeah,
with great tragedy in them.
Ultimately, it's a tragedy. You see The Last Emperor, who's an actor who's been in a number of things we've watched since. He's basically powerless to the destruction of his country with all these foreign. I did cry, actually. The bit at the end of the movie is super emotional, and I'm a sensitive guy. And these three guys are great because they start off as rivals and not liking each other. They're very different guys. They all love the same woman. And by the end of the movie, everybody understand everybody enough, and they understand each other enough that they help each other.
Well, having been in the military and dealt with the kinds of people that I've dealt with over the years, that's something that really rings true because three of my closest friends whom I've met since I was in the Army, we were very competitive with each other, kind of shit on each other, and often didn't really like each other when we first met. And then 30 years we've been like best friends. It's really weird.
Those three grow close even though they're supposed to be all rivals. But I mean, again, they don't grow close and they hugging, kissing each other and whatever. It's still all very reserved, but they save each other's lives at various points and they do the right thing because they're all actually good guys. This guy's really interesting because, again, he was Korean but taken to Japan as a kid. His parents were slaughtered because they were lower class butchers. Butchers were the outcasts of society then. They did the meat butcher. Well, his parents were murdered by one of the rich families in the show. And he got taken and raised in Japan by a Yakuza guy, and he comes back supposedly representing the Japanese, but secretly he wants to do other things.
I'm not sure what you're asking about, Court. I have not seen this show. I'm going to watch it now.
I will give you the caveat that it's fairly slow. It's certainly the beginning.
I don't mind slow burns.
And it features the romance, but to me the romance is integral to the story, not additional to it. It's not like
the only thing I
let's get
hate about
guys
slow burns is when they get finger waggy or don't take us someplace interesting.
No, this one it has to be the way it is.
Now, if you want to know, Brian and Courtney, as she asked, Anima has watched me get emotional, and she will tell you and I think she's still in chat. She can tell you what makes me cry. I get emotional with the true romantic moments of that personal sacrifice when someone lays down their life for somebody else.
Yeah.
As well as like we were watching Full Metal Jacket last night, and I get emotional in Cowboy Days.
Yeah, I mean, I quite often get emotional at stuff. I got emotional in this at a few places. There's an example of the kind of great scene shots and cinematography you'll get in this movie. It looks gorgeous. They really put a lot of.
Yeah, I do. I'm looking at it now with these images, and it's yep. You've turned me onto it. I'm going to watch. Okay, she said something. Let's see what.
Beautiful, beautiful show. You could watch it together.
Yeah, she didn't say anything. She just says she's here, but she'll confirm that I get emotional in war films.
Yeah, and around everything's swirling around them. The violence, the fighting, the jockeying for position. The Americans are not popular because at the beginning in the trailer,
imagine that in a Korean show.
But they shell a Korean base early in the show because they think the Koreans have got an American ship that was grounded and they're holding them in custody. But the whole thing was a huge misunderstanding. But they shell the shit out of this Korean base and they basically kill various people, some of who the characters' children pop up later and cause a bit of issues. But so it's not simple. The story isn't simple. It's all nuanced. There's lots of shifting alliances. There's some real evil shits in it. Japanese particularly are just awful.
Man. Hey, I don't want to have you just talking to me. I want you to get back to what you're doing. I just want to drop in, see how the first show is going.
Well, I don't know how is the first show going because I'm talking a lot about shit I love, and that
well, there you go. Then it must be going well. People are in the chat are very. You got Courtney watching for goodness.
Courtney's great though. Thank you for supporting the show, Courtney. It's great.
Now, my bad eyes. I look over and she says, "Hi again, Anima." But when my eye first sees it through the corner of my eye, it looked like she said, "Hi, Angina."
Angina, yeah. Well, I hope everybody's enjoying it. I mean, I intend on these shows every week to be talking about stuff like this that I like, that I probably don't have the time to cover on my own channel, but stuff that I really love. And that's, to me, is important. The passion is important. I've got a list of topics to do, and hey, hopefully people will come back.
Well, definitely. Hey, you know any garage punk bands, Brian? Brian,
do I know any personally, or
yeah? Any Scottish punk bands?
Oh, I know lots of Scottish punk bands from back in the day. The Skids, the Revillos.
Do you still know them?
I do. I don't know them personally though.
See there you go. That's
the only guy I know personally from a band, and they weren't punk, was a guy from Teenage Fan Club, Norman Blake. But
I want you to hook me up.
Oh,
with
I know.
someone,
I
'cause
know Derek Dick from Marillion Fish. I know him.
I want to get somebody that's Scottish and punk to do a quick 20-second, 30-second intro for your show.
Well, I can do it.
Yeah,
Who's
but
more punk than me?
I don't know.
Get Brahma to do it. He can do a Scottish accent.
I'll talk. Oh, Brahma? Oh, fuck yeah.
He does a good Sean Connery. Maybe he could do Sean Connery as a punk.
I guess there'll be some spanking.
Yes. Yes. I'm going to spank you. I'm going to rip your. I'm going to rip your nipple clamps off.
Oh my God.
That that would have made Goldfinger really interesting.
Finally, we mentioned Scotland. Somewhere down here, and I might have played it earlier, is this one.
This is Scotland at the time the temperature dropped.
We, on the other hand, are colonised by wankers.
The trouble with Scotland is that it's full of Scots.
I love that moment.
Yeah.
We're doomed.
Yeah, so
Courtney, get a hold of me because I want to have somebody do an opening just for this show.
Well, we want to do some. Yeah, we're going to get the overlays and everything sorted. We haven't the time yet, but we'll get the brand stuff sorted out properly, and we'll get the fuel up. Fuel up hydration obviously will be a part of the show, and fuel up.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
So, I'm glad I've converted you to Mr. Sunshine. You will not be disappointed. As I say, it's slow and it builds, but when it gets to the end, the payoff is worth it.
Look, I'm a big fan of historic dramas. I really am.
Mate. Me too.
I like those, like Herman Wouk when they would adapt something he wrote into a film. You know, Sturgis. These are some great sweeping stuff, and I got to tell you, Japan's done it. I'm a big fan of the Samurai trilogy with Toshiro Mifune.
Yeah, I mean,
Miyamoto Masashi.
I was used to more Japanese content, but now I'm really into the Korean stuff. That's not to say I'm still not watching Japanese content. We talk a lot about Squid Game. I love Alice in Borderland, which is a similar feel. Love that show. Japanese. And there's a Japanese show, again, the sensitive side, called Midnight Diner. It's about 6 seasons of it. They're all on Netflix. It's a beautiful little slice of life show set in a little diner in the middle of Tokyo at night, and it's got a regular cast of people in it. It's kind of like a Japanese Cheers in a sense, without the drinking, and well, there's drinking, but without that kind of slapstick humor. It's a bit more subtle. But
do you have a favorite Korean film?
A favorite? Korean. Well, the Mr. Sunshine would be my favorite show. I think if I was to pick a favorite movie, I'd pick the 2 Don Lee movies, Outlaws and The Roundup.
I got to tell you, I have a particular favorite film is The Man from Nowhere.
Yeah.
Very fond of that film, and I've been hoping we'd see an American adaptation because the thing I like about those is even if they're good or bad, it doesn't matter. It introduces the audience to the film, the original film. They find out about this original film, and more people go to see that film.
Didn't quite get to it, but
Old Boy is number 2.
The Korean Old Boy is outstanding.
Yeah, I as much as I love the film, I thought that the showdown at the end was a little 8mm for me, where you don't walk into the room with the item that the bad guy wants and then negotiate.
I would not disagree with that.
That was my only complaint about the original film. But the ending is tragic. Again, that tragic ending.
Yeah, and it does have a couple of people in it who went on to be in quite a few other things, names of which I haven't written down there. And as I say,
this dude right there on the screen, man, he's been in a lot of stuff. He was
he's now, yes. So he was.
I think he was not the detective. He was the pimp, I think.
He
works with the cop to find a serial killer in Korea.
I think he is the star of a show we're watching right now called Big Bet. If that's Choi Moon Sik. So Big Bet, I don't seem to have I've got a trailer for it though. Have we got time? So Big Bet is a show that
let's see it.
It's on Hulu in Asia. I don't know if it's made its way here yet. I happen to have a copy. And it's...
that's the one. Hold on. I'm sorry. Che, that's the one. That's the film I'm talking about. The Chaser.
Chaser, yeah.
Holy shit, that movie's intense. No, it did not trigger my PTSD. It didn't with the kidnapping of my daughter. But I got to tell you, man, that's an intense movie right there. Oh.
Again. So yeah, so the I think this is the same guy that stars in Big Bet, if I'm right. He's a lot older because it's like 20 years on. But let me just present. So a show I'm watching right now, Big Bet. It's also got Son Suku in it that I've been talking about earlier a lot. It's directed by the guy who directed Outlaws and Roundup, and it's a pretty good, intriguing show.
사업은 말이다. 총으로 하는 게 아니야. 신용으로 하는 거지.
Attention, please. This is Mr. Chan. Cheers.
That guy there was an old boy. Him there.
Yesterday he stopped by at the crime
Much
scene.
older, obviously.
Holy shit, how old is
Acting
old?
like you already knew what happened there.
Been a while.
Remember.
Now that's Son Suku, who's also in this, so I love it originally. Same director as Roundup and Outlaws. Kick-ass.
He's connected to a lot of top dogs in the city.
He's setting up a casino in the Philippines.
뭐 하시는 분이세요? 고리한 데서 어떻게 왔어요, 업장에?
So you have to be really careful, hon.
또 뵙겠습니다. 필리핀에서 나를 이길 수 있겠어요? 절대 못 이겨.
Seems like it was done by a professional.
결국은 이렇게 되네.
You know who did it?
아직 마닐라에 있다. 네가 가서 받아와. 누가 현행범을 이런 식으로 데려가도 된다 그랬습니까? 세상이 다 그런 거야. 예수아. 차문식 씨 여기 계시죠? 너 나 감당할 수 있겠니?
Everybody fears this guy.
Please, don't do anything.
이제 알겠지? 네가 나한테 안 되는 이유.
That looks good.
Oh yeah, we started watching it. We're about 3 episodes in, and it's Hulu Disney Plus. But yeah.
Hi, Cam.
So sorry, I got my voice coming into me twice. It's my fault. It does look good. First 3 episodes are brilliant. It basically starts back in the 70s when he's an orphan in the streets and works his way up through. He becomes a gambler, owns small gambling houses in Korea, gets driven out of the country to avoid tax, and then sets up in the Philippines. But there's a lot of people don't want him to be there. And it's, as I say, it's got everything I like because it's the same guy that made the Roundup and the Outlaws, and it's got the old boy there. Just it's classy crime action stuff, which is it's mainstream, but I love it.
Well, it's neat that Netflix, bought into that. They're calling them Netflix originals, even though they were really shot.
Well, that one's a Hulu Disney Plus, funnily enough.
That one's Hulu.
Yeah,
but I think it's a smart move to start bringing it over. The problem I have with foreign projects is when they start adding them to our award shows, not as foreign, but as competitive to the American market. And that annoys me. Keep it as a foreign award.
Yeah, so just before I want to get to what John's got something I want to show that he was talking about, which is the kaiju stuff. Just before I get to that, there is I'm watching Big Bet right now. There's another show that I would like to recommend that we're watching, which I'm not sure where you can see it. I have a way of seeing it, but I'm not sure.
Websites names that shall not be named.
Yeah, it's a show called Decoy. It's a crime drama. This one filmed in a very different cinematography style from some of them. It's not flashy. It's very muted and washed out. Season 1 has just been 6 episodes. It's just finished, but season 2 is in April. It's one of these A lot of flashbacks, twisty-turny. You don't really know who the ultimate villain is. Detective is trying to figure it out, but he's getting all the resistance from above, which is another TV trope in Korea. The bosses are always corrupt. The detective always has to buck against the system to get it. So Decoy, that's on right now. That's pretty good. When we've two others that we really enjoyed. One is this Bad and Crazy. So the guy here is the guy that was in the Goblin Show as the Grim Reaper. He's a little bit older now. This is a fun show. There's a lot of fun in this. A shit ton of action as well. But the guy with the leather jacket on is his alter ego. He's not real. He has an alter ego. So one's bad, one's crazy, and the alter ego turns up and kicks the shit.
Sounds a little bit of Philip K. Dick here.
Yeah, the alter ego turns up when he's in trouble and kicks the ass of everybody, and you don't realize it's an alter ego until later. Of course, you think it's another guy. It just turns up out of nowhere. In fact, it's like Fight Club. He kicks his own ass half the time. It's a lot of fun, and the guy that played the Grim Reaper in Guardian is a much more mature now, and he's really good in it. But the guy that's beside him there, the crazy guy, he's got a shit-eating grin. It's got a fantastic fight scene reminiscent of one of the Jason Statham movies where they're in the oil. It's all in vats of oil, barrels of oil get poured out, and they're all fighting in the oil. And he kicks everyone's ass. It's really good. Good show, a lot of fun. Called Bad and Crazy. I think that one's on Netflix. I'm not sure. But,
there, I just referred to you as my mate.
And then the other one I'm watching right now is a show called The Good Detective, which has had 2 seasons. I really hope it gets a third. Again, it's got all the tropes. There's a young cop and an old cop.
I think one of my biggest
bosses are corrupt. The politicians are corrupt.
Some of the young guy hairdos are really like makes him look too pretty, and I don't like that.
Yeah, well, this guy is funny. He's rich, but he still likes to be a detective because he just likes it. So he doesn't have to worry about money. So they can't bribe him, blackmail him, threaten him, whatever. And he's got a shit eating.
Yeah, he's got too much money to yeah.
He can't. The old boy has been passed over for promotion a bunch of times. He's always backed off to the corrupt bosses. Finally, this guy gives him the balls to go up against them to solve the various political murders and whatever. Seung Jo Yang is the young guy's name. He's started to appear in more stuff. He's a really nice guy. He's great. It's fun. Again, it's got the trope though of people get stabbed in the episode. Next episode, they're up and about and as if nobody had ever touched them, or they're hit over the head with multiple baseball bats. Next day, they're like, "I'm good," and back to work.
Oh my God. Monkey Jeebus says if you put a cup of noodles behind them, it could be an ad.
Yeah. It's a fun, they formed a fun team. It's, when you get the casting right and you just get that group of guys, They really play well together, these guys. And there were a bunch of detectives they're not in Seoul, they're in some other shitty city. They were downtrodden.
Everybody from Seoul just said, "What did he say?"
Yeah, they were downtrodden. No, Seoul's not a shitty city. This is a shitty city. They're in Incheon or whatever, and they're downtrodden because nobody's ever given a shit about them. They've never been allowed to do their job properly. This young guy comes in and just kind of reinvigorates them, and they start, "Fuck, we don't care about our careers. We're going to arrest that guy even if he's rich and powerful," kind of thing. It's a great show, a lovely show. So I thoroughly recommend it. I've probably been through just about everything that I wanted to talk about, but there is stuff I don't know about. I mean, I'm still a novice when it comes to Korean stuff. I'm working my way back. Tons of stuff.
Well, we should get together and do a show dedicated to talking about like the best Korean films and just go through like a slew of them.
We probably will do another one. Hey, Cam. Forward and Boarding. There won't be one this Saturday, but there will be next week. It's a great show. We have a lot of fun. John brought a film.
I'm sorry.
John brought a film to my attention. I didn't realize there was all these kaiju movies.
Did he do it telepathically?
He did. In his mind, he has capacity to know.
No, you got to do it this way.
Transmitting messages across the great unknown. Sorry. Just close your eyes and concentrate. So
Close your eyes, spread your legs. Now fertilize your eggs. Anyway.
So there's a Pulgasari. Is that what you call it, John?
Yeah, Pulgasari.
So I'm gonna watch the trailer for this. I've got it on my list to watch now. So let's.
What is this?
Pulgasari. It's a Korean kaiju.
North Korean.
Korean.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about. I have this on my hard drive.
I love the cinematography here.
This is the one where the director was kidnapped.
Yeah.
Pulgasari. Yeah.
誰も見ることのできなかった怪獣映画の最高傑作が
Admit it, that was
35
Donald
ミリ
Trump.
ニュープリント完全版でついに日本
That's
上
Donald
陸
Trump right there.
全世界の映画ファンが夢にまで見た伝説的見せ場の数々その全貌が明らかになる時が来た1万人以上の群衆が繰り広げる驚異のスペクタクル壮大なスケールで展開する破壊のカタルシス今熱い注目の中映画史に残る怪獣映画の金字塔が世界で初めて大スクリーンに登場する
Oh my god, I've watched too much Japanese. I'm understanding some of what he's saying.
全世界が待っていた伝説の怪獣映画
It's Korean.
It's Korean, but he's actually using Japanese words.
Oh, right, okay.
古笠り伝説の大怪獣
So that was a North Korean movie.
But the trailer is Japanese.
Yeah, that's actually from the Japanese release of.
That's
Pulgasari
why.
when
That's why, because I'm understanding some of what they're saying.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, he fucking kidnapped the director of that film.
Kidnapped the Shin Sang-ok.
It was what was it? Kim Jong, the father.
Kim Jong-il.
Not ill. It was before ill, wasn't it?
Yun.
Yun. That's it. The first one. And he had him kidnapped. And it's not the first time he'd done that. He'd done that before with an actor, too. Man, just fucking... I mean, that needs to be a movie by itself. What he did.
Yeah.
And then after the guy did what he asked, he let him go.
I like the fact that in this article they refer to something I've discovered recently is that there's two different ways of anglicizing Korean. One's an older system and then there's a newer one, and they're kind of switching between them now. So you'll get Pulgasari or Bulgasari depending on which you use.
Right. Well, Bulgasari is a 1962 kaiju film that came out during the Showa era of kaiju movies.
Yeah. This I'm gonna have to look into this stuff because I've never been a big student.
Oh shit! Shinatsky said no, that they didn't let him go. They snuck out. That was it.
Yeah, they escaped.
They got 4 minutes.
And they eventually made it to the United States.
It's funky, dude.
Yeah. So we'll probably do more on this, John. I'm sorry we didn't get to it earlier,
That's
but
fine.
I'm gonna go away and watch it. And then,
I have a ton of movies to talk about, Korean movies that.
Well, just
that
fire
I've
me
seen,
the
from
names.
Sci-fi, disaster.
Well, it sounds like we need to do this show in parts then.
Yeah. Well, I
this
really,
is part one.
I really only covered modern stuff here, like current stuff, because that's what I'm watching now. I need to go back and watch some of the older stuff. So give me some names and we'll do that. Yeah. We'll do it.
And by the way, and I'm sure you guys are the same. I'm a big lover of Asian cinema.
Oh, me too. Yeah,
Chinese, Japan, Korea,
it's
Thailand. Although Thailand, holy shit, when women start talking in Thai movies,
yeah,
I just want to start punching at the air.
There are Indonesian and Malayan movies that are pretty good now too. Philippines.
And so fucking and they're just.
I do want to kind of start wrapping up because we're getting very close to the end. Yeah, we'll do more of this because this is stuff I didn't really want to do on my own channel.
Did you let everybody know what was going on with Bill?
I didn't. I mentioned
I'm
that
going to go
he
ahead and
wasn't
say it
here.
real quick.
I mentioned he wasn't
here.
Family emergency. Yeah.
It was it's his mom She was taken to the hospital last night, and they kept her for observation. Everybody, whether you're faithful or not, send your positive thoughts, say your prayers. We're Bill's not here today, and it's scary stuff, man. When I got message last night about this,
I must message him back at some point. But yeah, it's scary. So best wishes to Bill and his mum.
Amen.
Thanks everybody for bearing with me on this inaugural show. I hope that wasn't too dry or boring. Me talking about.
I enjoyed listening to you, man. It's a good show.
These are the things I've been watching.
And you've got your fangirls out there that just love you.
I've probably got fan guys too.
Well,
I'm not discriminating. Anyone's attracted to me.
You're like Rod Stewart.
John and Martin, thank you for supporting me and helping me through this. Appreciate
That's
it, guys.
me. I'm always here.
No, I appreciate that very much. Gary, thanks for popping.
I'm like herpes. I just pop up.
Thanks for sliding in through the back door, Gary, as usual. And thank you to everyone in the chat. You've all been wonderful. I'm very touched that so many people have been here for this, and we're going to build on this, and hopefully this show will develop, and we'll get.
I'm going to get with Courtney and see if we can get like a punk theme for you. It just screams that 70s rock fan. That 70s rock fan. It's Brian.
If I don't have to do it, that's 5 minutes more of my time I can save, because I got a lot of stuff to work on. But speaking of stuff I'm working on, just want to give a quick plug to my channel, That 70s Rock Fan. Please go subscribe to that if you haven't. There's a lot of great stuff coming up there, but particularly next Monday is my 60th birthday on February 27th, and we're doing a big stream that day. John's obviously a permanent member of the panel. I'm hoping Martin and Gary will want to come by and pop in.
It has nothing to do with one. It all depends on my work schedule. I'm hoping to be there. I'm at least going to give you 10 minutes. I will pop in there.
And I'll there won't be a specific theme to that day.
I finally have somebody on the show older than me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'll be playing a lot of. You've worked hard at that, and I'll still be older than you every week. So I'm going to be talking a lot of stuff I love. So
yeah, Martin.
Yeah, I think we should go through the list and say our goodbyes.
All right. Do you want to do it, Martin, or are you going to do it, Brian?
Oh, Brian, please.
Who wants to go first?
You do it, Brian.
So I'm saying goodbyes to
everybody that he's added into our.
I just didn't know whether John and Martin or Gary, you wanted to plug anything swiftly.
No, I've got my penis stuck right now, so it's
my goodness.
Useless.
Well, how could such a small thing get stuck? I mean, is it inverted? What is it? I don't get it. How to live with a micro penis? So yeah, good. So everybody, thanks to everybody out there in the chat and on KGRA for listening. Really appreciate it. We've had some wonderful people in the chat. Some of our great friends: Peter Venkman, Shanotsky, Cam, Cavitino, Courtney, our great friend Courtney. Alex Moore. We have, let's see, who have we got? Six was here. Sean Estep. Did I say Peter Venkman? I should have.
Yes.
Monkey Jeebus.
Monkey Jeebus, thank you. Come again.
Dragon Ruse. We've got, oh, geez, I got to go back. Scrolling. Cam. I think we may have mentioned. I can't remember. If we didn't, we mentioned him now. Or her. Who knows? Who else have I missed? Help me out.
Real Wade Nation, Monkey Jeebus, Dragon Bricks,
yep,
Master Shadow Dragon, D-Bud Martin, Anima Confusion, Dark Knight, and Christian Delorme.
Christian was here, a great friend. Thanks to those who've been modding. There was a lot of mods there, Zax, D-Bud, and others. Thank you all for doing that. We couldn't do it without you. And if I missed anyone, my deepest apologies, but I have thoroughly enjoyed having you all here. This has been a lot of fun. Little bit more relaxed than my Monday show on my channel because I've got people to help. So, and to talk about stuff that wouldn't probably fly on that show. So that's great. And we're going to do much more of that. So thanks very much, everybody. Martin, how are we doing?
Oh, we're doing fine. And with that,